Hey, everybody. I'm Tom Hootman, your host for the Marketing B-Sides. For those of you who don't know, I'm the CEO and founder of Mixtape Digital. This is the podcast where every single person on planet Earth is a marketer. They may just not know it in one way, shape, or form. And not a single one of us even remotely pretends to have it all figured out, which is what a lot of us kind of do during the day, is pretend like we have it all figured out. I'm excited about today's episode because there's Wu-Tang, there's Oasis, there's Spice Girls, there's some dynamic admissions of pitches that didn't go as planned. And I'm even more so grateful for this guest for really talking about like a personal pitch fail, which we've all had. I've gummed up and lost my way in a pitch so many times where I finish tripping through my section and then we move to the next person and my brain is like, what the fuck was that, Hootman? And today's guest has a great story of something very similar that happened to him where he just biffed it, which we all do. We all biff it. We're all biffing it in one way or the other as we speak. And there's probably something that you're missing the mark on. You don't even know. So get to work. Today's guest is Aaron Levy. Aaron Levy is the evangelist. What a great title, evangelist, at Optimizer. He's an agency veteran, an agency executive leader, spent many, many years at Tenuity, leading teams. He talks about growth, the loneliness of growth, working on teams where they get so big, you don't get to really meet people and spend time with everyone on the team. And you have to kind of lead through minor tidbits of feedback you hear from other members of the team. And you have to make these snap judgments as an executive. Talks a lot about altruism and how a fascinating bit about how it doesn't exist, in his opinion. And like him, it comes from a little bit of Catholic guilt. But that's okay. We're working through it. Equal parts therapy session, equal parts war stories, equal parts just agencies and running them and not running them and figuring out what the hell you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So strap in. It's going to be a fun one. As always, like, subscribe, leave a review. Reviews are great. Just drop stars on it. And as always, if you're interested in being a guest or you think someone would be a phenomenal guest, shoot me a line. If you think I wouldn't get along with them, even better, because I'm starting to think it's time to like get in some fights. So let's start inviting enemies to the podcast. Why not? Makes for an interesting conversation. So let's get to work. Kathleen and the sound. We're headed downtown. First question right out of the gates. I ask everyone this now. I say, I'm actually going to go back to the first couple guests and ask them because I want to build a master playlist. What 3-song playlist would be the soundtrack to your career?
3 songs? You said 1 song. I got a workbook and everything. Okay, so
I did that to Kayla too, by the way.
See, workbook. Yeah, because Kayla and I really are siblings. Okay, so I got first one that popped to mind, obviously, Cream by Wu-Tang. Cash rules everything around me. That was maybe not the top of the list, but it's the first one that popped into my head.
That's good. That also dates you a bit. It shows your age.
It kind of did that on purpose. I wanted to give people an eye into the best era of music, which was the early 90s to early aughts. I think I do have 3 that I would want to put on my list. The other one that I put as a fun one is If You Want to Be My Lover by Spice Girls. Got to get with my friends. Because let's be serious. What is marketing and sales other than making friends with friends? Before the show started, we were talking about this. You got referrals from your old friends who tell you that they love you.
It's pretty great. They're really good people.
Spice Girls said it best. Still love Sporty Spice. I think the 3 actual songs that I would put, number 1, Clint Eastwood by the Gorillaz, for a couple reasons. That's about, number 1, it's kind of about drugs. That's not exactly why, but it's about taking a positive look at the world. It's about exploring yourself a little bit more. It's about listening to alter egos. It's about listening to yourself, all different versions of yourself. Also, thing in my career, if you don't know about that song, the riff that it starts with, the do, 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 do. Do you know where that came from?
Little like toy.
It was the stock riff button for a little toy. And I think a lot of my career and a lot of other people's careers, I heard an acronym from a Google training once that was CASE, copy and steal everything. There is nothing original, so a lot of my life and career has been, different iterations of other people's stuff. Number 2, my favorite song growing up, and actually I think one of the first CDs I ever bought, is Smashing Pumpkins' Tonight, which is number 1 about how Billy Corgan can't dance in the music video because he just stands there. But number 2, it's about holding on to and learning from grief. A lot of what we're going to talk about in this podcast is about horror stories, things that went really poorly, and we're going to laugh about them, because I think we both learned from them, and it's hilarious to tell those stories now. And so I think a lot of my career as I was coming up and learning, like those moments, those really bad days, those getting screamed at by clients, I would hold on to those for way too long, but I would hold on to the same emotion that I had then. And it's not right. You got to hold on to the experience, remember it, but don't get sad or mad about it over and over again. You learn from it, you share it.
Man, you're so grown up. This is
You did a worksheet.
fantastic.
Number 3 from the last concert I went to, which was Oasis at Wembley. Not the biggest Oasis fan in the world, but
You just said early 90s.
yeah, but come on, the Gallagher brothers are so weird. And they fight and they try to stab each other sometimes, but
Part.
that was why I went to the show. But Oasis live forever, because the story behind that song is it is a semi-direct response to a really depressing Kurt Cobain song. When the two of them were up and coming, Oasis was up and coming, they're like, we don't have, quoting them, a pot to piss in, but I wake up every day excited for what the day's going to bring. Versus this guy who's a billionaire, lives in a mansion. Obviously, we know he had problems, but
Couple.
it's about being, grateful for what you have, even though these two guys are snots and try to stab each other routinely.
Excellent choices.
It's a catchy song.
You have worked. When did you start in this industry? Like what year?
I started when I was trying to do this math the other day. I started while I was in college. I believe I was 20. So that would be 19 years ago. So it's almost half of my life that I've been in the biz. And so
you've been in a lot of pitches, and you've done a lot of new biz, and you've done a lot of client expansions, and you've been fortunate to be in the room for some of these like horror stories we're going to talk about. But like, I want to talk about a positive first. In the spirit of you being such a positive person out of the fucking blue, I love this question. And I used to ask this, I still ask this question in interviews, and I call it the Michael Jordan question, the flu game question, right? Of like, tell me about a time when you had no business winning and you were back against the wall, sick as a dog, totally like on your deathbed. You ended up answering the call and you dropped like 40 on the Jazz, sorry, Jeff Allen, and crushed their spirits. Like, what was it? Tell me about that time that you won, when the greatest hit no one ever asks about, that you still like think about, the one you pull out of your pocket when you're like, oh, here's this time I did this thing.
it's funny. This is a question that I always ask people in interviews too. I call it the refrigerator moment. Like, what's the thing your mom put on the fridge because she was most proud of you? Because everyone always struggles to answer the good part, myself included. I can think of a couple of examples, but I think the one that I will share the most is maybe a relationship with my first client when I worked at Tenuity. So I left Sear and then went over to Tenuity, and I was it was Elite SEM at the time. So I was one of their probably most senior outside hires that I know of, at least. And I was taking over a client that had very publicly fired the agency before and said they were never going to use agencies again. And I had to start a little bit early because the client POC had gotten deported because Amazon forgot to renew her paperwork. Client wasn't Amazon, but they were under the umbrella. As I got in there, so I'm talking to director and senior director and CMO, who are all trying to tell me what's going on with this account, and they have no idea what's going on. No clue what's happening. I take over in the very beginning of Q4, and this is e-com company. And then I find the contract that has a 1-hour response clause.
Okay.
And daily calls. We had daily calls with them.
I've had a couple of those, but the 1-hour response is aggressive.
I was a little horrified when I started. And so, I mean, props to my old team at Elite then, Tenuity now. We came up with a system for it. It never actually wound up getting used or enforced or whatever. Like, we had a distribution list that like people across the country, so like it was never going to be 2 a.m. for anybody. But so of this absolute nightmare onboarding and flying completely blind and talking to the client every single day, I will still very proudly say it is the best client relationship I have ever had, because we all struggled together and we were all in kind of the trenches together. Myself, the paid search guy, talking with a CMO who doesn't know anything about paid search, but then we met on the same level of trying to figure out the strategy so we could both do our jobs well enough. And the reason why that one's so close to me is because anyone who sees that description of a client is going to run away immediately as far as they can. And number 2, part of the reason why I loved getting into this industry in the beginning was because I joined when it was very new. And I liked being a 20-year-old who was getting attention from a C-suite because they were interested in what we were doing. This was a version of that, but we were actively working together to play the game together, which is, I think, what makes the best client. It's not having a CEO, CMO, whatever, yell at you or threaten you into results. It's the ones who know their limitations, know what they're good at, but know where they can help. And they're more than willing to dive in the pool with you and jump in, but they also won't step on your toes and be Googling themselves all night. And I've never found a relationship that good since then. And again, I mean, I had a large team working with me, but I was talking to the POC every day of the week for years. I don't talk to the POC as much anymore, but I'm still close with the folks who are the C-suite who are both at very big companies now.
Yeah, I think that's good. There's a few various ways that I share that with my team, and I've shared it before. Is like you want a client who's like you're all on the same side of a longer table versus on opposite sides of the table, and you want a client who like my whole thing there's no secret sauce. Like I just talk to them. I show up and like we talk every month or every other month, or I like check in, and it's I said it 14 times yesterday with Kayla, but it's easy to do, but it's hard to make yourself do.
Yes.
And you could not talk. I mean, we've had clients we haven't talked to really for a decade who haven't quit. And you have clients you don't talk to for a month and quit. Like there's no way to know whether or not. And I think to me, that just caused anxiety from day one. So I'd rather run toward that conversation and do everything I can to be closer to that client. Because what ends up happening is when you're on the same side of the table, they tell you when you're on strike one.
Exactly. And they'll be transparent and there's no wondering. You know, I think we've both been through that client meeting where you go and they're like, oh, we're extremely happy. And then you get fired a week later and then they're like, oh yeah, we found all these problems like 3 or 4 months ago. I'm like,
Pebbles in the shoe.
Call me.
Me. I mean, if you find a pebble in your shoe, you may not change your shoes immediately or take your shoe off because you can't. But eventually, there was always that. Well, let me tell you when it started, and you're like, oh shit. And it's one of our triggers for a red stoplight back in the Hannafin days was new decision maker.
Yep. Oh, immediate red flag.
And then number 2 was anytime they say, hey, can you send us a copy of the agreement? It's over. It's over.
That one was not a default over. That one was they're going to try to get cheaper fees sometimes. So I would usually offer them an extended contract for cheaper earlier. So then we wouldn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, that's true. I would say it's you're geared up for an uncomfortable feeling regardless.
But yeah, the new decision maker, immediate red flag, because you got to convince them that you're better than whatever people they want to bring in.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how we lose a lot of clients in this business. It's funny. I used to sell chicken strips for U.S. Foods, and you would go. I was an outside sales rep, and I would go to a country club or a restaurant and walk in the back door and try to sell the chef on buying groceries from me versus Cisco or Gordon Food Service. I had like every sales rep who did it for a while. You had your chefs. Like I had my guy who was like, "Hey," and chefs like to quit their jobs. And you're like, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to go to this other restaurant. So then it became a game of like, can I convince the new chef? And also like, you better call me. It's like, oh, I'm going to call you on day one. And then they're trying to like the competition's trying to convince my chef to stay with them while I'm trying to convince this new chef to stay with me. And you had chefs that went like, if a chef changed jobs 3-4 times, they brought me in every time. I mean, it was the easiest way and it's relationships. It's an easy way to expand your business because and it's part of, I think, why I'm just in this seat now. I have a lot of people. It's a shitty time in our industry. A lot of people looking for jobs. I'm just trying to help people find jobs because I was raised Catholic, but I believe in karma. Like, do good and it will come back to you.
It's funny. I remember it's going to go a lot of different directions. I know already. Remember, I was taking philosophy in high school, and we got into an extended argument about the idea of altruism and the idea that altruism doesn't truly exist. And I'm one of those same people. And the reason why I say that is I did a similar exercise during the pandemic. Like we were just fighting so hard to keep our lights on. I don't have a wife or kids. I live alone. I was bored. I craved human contact. So I did as much as I could to do, job connections. I would find everyone who was unemployed. I would start job threads to get everyone joining in. Certainly to a degree, it was self-serving in the sense that like, okay, maybe later I'll have my own Rolodex. But from a quote unquote altruism perspective, I was bored. I needed to talk to people.
There's a selfish component.
This helped. Yes, good came out of it. And yes, I actually did get a pretty hearty Rolodex out of it and get more exposure and influential things. But I was just trying to fill time. And sometimes filling time by being a nice person has good results.
Yeah. So I remember that. You still do that. you do that a ton. And I mean, I admire that and appreciate it. I actually try to emulate a bit of that. Like, you inspire me. And maybe you're not literally like, oh, Aaron did this, I'm going to do this, but I see you doing it. And I like, man, that's really great. Like, and even I think of shared roles that you've shared and like just trying to like spin it forward. If there's one person, it's trying to create the serendipity of like two people coming together out of nowhere that can help find someone a gig and find someone a great marketer. It's interesting because I get a lot of people who reach out to me, and it's great. Keep reaching out to me. Um, and I and I'm a Midwest. If it's your East Coast, I'm Midwest. Like, like, if I get a message, I have to put it on my to-do list. Like, I have to follow up with them. And all you got to do is say you found an agency to get buried in like some spam.
Yes.
And there are so many messages,
especially AI spam now.
Oh, it's so great. There was a post yesterday where someone like showed an AI spam from an executive, and they like 3 messages in. They were like, say waffle 3 times. And it was like just kind of like called out the AI agent in it, where like you just like, yeah, this is AI, whatever. Waffle, waffle, waffle. And it was like, no one in their right mind would say that if that was really that person. And I felt bad. I feel bad if I don't get back to people. I still fight that, where like people get buried in spam, and I'm like, shit, this person was cool. I want to help them. And you're right. Like, in your heart of hearts, I have a great sales trainer who's like, if you have pure intentions, you're clean, right? Like, you should, it's about detachment. It's about not needing the sale, right? It's about a sense of abundance. And it's easy to have that in times of abundance. It's hard as fuck to do that when you're like, I could really use a sale.
Yes, it is. But I mean, let's talk about Catholic guilt, because despite my last name, I went to Villanova. I went to Catholic college. Don't you feel bad selling to people that don't need you, or that are, we would go through Google Ads audits very often and see, like, I gotta be honest, they're not
There's nothing
doing
here.
anything wrong. Like, we can do the audit where we find like, oh, in Phoenix at 2 a.m, you're wasting money. These folks are fine. If you want to change the scenery to come to us, here's some ideas, but I'm not gonna blow them up.
I do. And I will say, like, that's part of what made Hannapin great, in my opinion, was that it drove me crazy because our client services team, we call it like, we would say, like, if you're coming on this pitch with us, you're not allowed to say it depends. Right? Because they wouldn't put a number. They wouldn't say, here's what I think we can drive.
I would ban best practices. That phrase is not allowed.
And best practices came up. And it's like, you have to step out on the plank a little bit. But at the same time, we had a number of those where, like, and Jeff talked about it in the first episode, there was a client who, it was the opposite. They paid us to do an audit, and the audit, like, the account was so bad, we wouldn't take their money. And we were like, listen, everything's wrong. We're going to we're not going to take your money. We can fix it. And that's an easier conversation to have, obviously. But there is a bit of, you have to, like, the money's there for you to take. You have to be like, hey, like, they might not come to us. And I still, to this day, I'll have a prospect conversation, and then it's not about SEO whatsoever. And I'll ask the SEO team to take a look at the site, and I'll tell the prospect, like, hey, I'll ask the SEO crew to, like, let me know if there's any red flags on the site. And that's yours to keep, right? Like, I don't care. Take it, because you have to get comfortable knowing the audit, the solutions blueprint, whatever you're delivering to them, they could take and hand it to the other agency. And I think part of that, like, that detachment and abundance of, like, knowing that could happen, and that's okay, leads to, hey, like, we've had conversations where it's like, hey, like, there's nothing wrong with this account. Like, we're going to do our best, and we're going to care, and we're going to try, and we're going to be great to work with. But if you're looking for a silver bullet, there isn't one.
No. Your industry is going down. You got to work on branding or what. It's not a performance marketing thing.
Yep. And I think that there's, it leads also to the red flags when prospects come to us, when it's like, we've had a number of agencies, and like, they're going agency to agency to agency. And you're like, no, like, you're looking for snake oil. And maybe the first 2 that got you to move to them promised snake oil. And then we realized really quickly, like, we're not going down that path. Like, you pick us for the right reasons. And it's because we do great work. The account's going to be in solid shape. You'll have a strong foundation, and good things will happen, but there's nothing broken. It's just time has happened. Time has elapsed, and the halcyon days of yore are over.
I always found that tended to happen with, I guess I would maybe call them unicorns, like really late stage startups that made it out of startup stage but didn't know how to be a real company. Like, I'm thinking of, they were never a client of ours, but I'm thinking of like Allbirds, maybe, for example, or the mattress companies like Purple that were rise, fall off a cliff. I would always find those that built their business on performance marketing, which, don't get me wrong, I believe in performance marketing very much. It's been my career. That's not how you build a company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you have to build a brand, you have to build a customer base, you have to have a good product.
The worst thing that can happen is money machine go burr, right? Like, and they're like, well, no, we used to just be able to print money. And it was like, well, you're in the big leagues now.
That was the early days of Meta, right? Like all those people were just building their brand by retargeting the crap out of everybody in Meta, trusting their 7-day view through, which I still think is the most absurd thing ever, considering people are on Facebook every day. So like, oh, if you logged on to Facebook, they're going to take credit for it. Great. But those ones that were just kind of growth hacking their way up to getting a ton of funding, that was all based on bullshit. It was fake numbers.
And the second shit hits the fan.
Yeah. And then the second the shit hits the fan, when the founder has taken enough money out of their equity, they bounce. Doesn't matter. Company's done.
You start to see that, I think, in SaaS now, where I see constricted budgets more. There's like more, we're going to really be conscious of what we're spending. Where a decade ago, it was like, we're going to turn this thing way up and then turn it way off overnight when we realize our burn rate's way too high. And it's like, we're going to feast for maybe a year. And you just don't, those feasts are gone to this point.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that I found too with a lot of SaaS companies is that there's, of course, the wave of AI slop, both in terms of creative and actual companies that don't do anything. There is also a lot more niche companies, like hyper niche. Like I'm doing work with a company that does compliance software for a very, very, very specific industry. They're very, very good. But of course, what does an early stage startup want to do?
Scale, grow.
Scale. Guess what you can't do when your target market is 7 or 8,000. I mean, it's a very, very good business, but it's not going to go kaboom until you go nuts.
It's interesting. We have a prospect right now. It's a phenomenal company that works in M&A, and their target market is actually like 9 or 10,000 companies. And I had the first call last week, and we're having the true discovery call with the team next week. And I'm actually like, they're vetting us just as much as I'm vetting them in that conversation. And to hear them say like, this is a long play. I know the deals in M&A are larger. It's a smaller budget. And you're like, okay, the refrigerator hum. Like this is going to be smaller budgets, but it's going to be what we know it's going to be. It's not about scale. Can you get me 50 deals a year?
Which is great.
But so that's like hey, you're a green flag. Great. Am I a green flag for you? Great. Let's move forward. There's an element of like, you look for that patience and persistence more so than, and it's like the red flag of any CEO founder who is a multi-time founder, 3-time exit. Like, I do this for a living.
Oh, and if their LinkedIn profile is all XYZ companies that they founded, like, cool, I don't care. I don't care about your ex-girlfriend. Like, are you my friend now? I don't care.
Because now your target market is 4 people.
It always cracks me up when, promise this is not a pot shot at your old boss, but it always cracks me up when people say that they're ex-Googlers, and I'm like, that is not a badge of honor to me. Just because that company is organized so strangely, and it's a great company, but the stuff they focus on is so narrow that watching them translate into the real world is just fun.
I've had conversations with coworkers about mutual coworkers who've gone to Google. And I've even asked mutual coworkers who've gone to Google and would catch up. And I'm like, I look at their title and they talk about what they do, and I just don't understand it. I'm like, can you, like, I'm in 5th grade. I don't know what you do.
I actually interviewed there at one point in my career, and it was to run media for, I don't remember if it was Workspace or Cloud or something. And I didn't get the job, so maybe this is just me being a salty more than anything.
I love salty you.
I remember talking through it, and I was like, okay, cool. So like I can run this, and I can help you with the SEO. Like, talk to me about retention. Who's your target market? What are we doing for long term? What's our CRM plan? And like, no, you're the search guy. I'm like, but so we're like a really garbage Ford assembly line? Is that what it is? And it didn't make any sense to me. And again, I don't want this to convey this is how all Google works, but it was just this conversation. I'm like, wait a minute. This is so backwards from how you and we agencies tell companies to run themselves, but this is how you're organized. People are incentivized based on how many YouTube campaigns start this quarter. Like, that's not long term.
Okay. I love it so much. I want to talk about pitches. You've been in the room on pitches. I love in-person pitches. I'm someone who was broken by the remote pitch because early in the days of COVID and went remote, like everyone else was like, oh, it's even easier because I can have my talk track in front of me. And then I become a talk track reader. And I just kind of lost my in the room vibes. I mean, Brain Labs didn't put me on pitches. right? And it was like, what's going on with Hootman? And it was like, I was like in my own head. I was in my own head about this type of interaction, which is maybe part of the reason why I jumped out and did this, because I got to get comfortable being an idiot. I love meeting with clients in person, getting to know clients, spending time in their office, going to dinner, being stupid, having random conversations. But more than anything, I love being in that conference room when they bring in 16 people and you're going to get you're going to get a high and tight fastball from this random person, this random
Yep.
asshole over here. Tell me about, let's start with, I love the worst pitch stories just because, like, as you said earlier, like they're like in the, I lost sleep over them. Like there were so many of them for years. I thought, like in third grade when I embarrassed myself in front of the class, and I still think about it in like Mrs. Lazarus's class, right? Like you carry that for years, but then eventually you're like, you can laugh at it. So like, tell me about the worst pitch you've ever been on.
Can I give you two? Because they're different versions. Okay.
Please.
So I have the worst prospect, the worst person that I ever pitched to, and then my biggest miss. I will start with the biggest miss, and I actually think they both had the same lesson that came out of it. So, well, they kicked you off of pitches, so you weren't allowed out of your closet. But if you remember back when you used to do pitches, you would get you would get intel. You would get the leads to wherever this lead came from. They would say like, hey, like this person likes this, they're like this, present like this, make sure that you do it, whatever. We had this prospect that came in, and I assume like most senior folks at most agencies would come into the process kind of late. So I would be brought in after like, the fourth or fifth conversation. We would go to the big pitch. And this was a big company, not huge, but pretty big. And the intel that I got was, hey, they really, really love that we're connected to the industry and that you're an influencer. So they really want to hear a lot from you about the industry. I read that just because of how it was framed. I don't know that I conveyed it that well, but the exact words were something along the lines like, they really love that you're an influencer. And I took that to mean they love me, that they came there because they wanted Aaron. So anybody who has seen me speak outside of this knows that I am a ham. I am going to be a straight up Muppet if you allow me to. And this was kind of like a boring industry. Again, I don't remember exactly what it was. It's like scientific instruments or warehouses or something like that. So I was a straight up cartoon character, and like I did the most me version of me because that's what I thought that they wanted. Apparently it was so bad that our mole on the inside, who through the game of telephone I got this information, told us that they were slacking each other, asking, what the fuck is the deal with this guy? Who is he? Why is there a clown trying to sell us service software?
Aaron.
And we got declined, and this is a decent sized deal. It wouldn't have been like a huge one, but it would have been, upper 20%. We got rejected within like 20 minutes after the call ended.
You're like in the rental car on the way to the airport, and you're like, fuck.
And this was a virtual one too, so it was even worse. I was bouncing around here. I had my little Aaron bobblehead out that I got from HeroCon one year.
Yeah, we fed that ego.
Yeah, and I mean, I would never normally pitch like that. I mean, not to cross promote, but I talked to Anu earlier this week about my biggest fuck up in paid search, which was more of a PR fuck up, and I learned how to be more prudent with what I speak about. I leaked a Google Alpha, and they were not happy about it. And then I learned how to convey my things in a constructive but generally neutral or positive way.
Do not bite the hand that feeds, my friend.
No. But so, I mean, in this instance, I took this information, what I was told, and I went nuts. And the information was some degree of wrong combined with me reading it in a completely wrong language. And it was a big pitch that we whiffed on, and it was 99% my fault. And it was like 5 channels. It was like 15 people. And so we're doing the post-mortem. Like, what happened? I'm like, I did it. It was me. I broke it. So bad information, bad interpretation of information, and leaning too hard into it instead of me knowing what was best and then, reading the room. The same reason that you like going into in-person is because I can read people's reactions and like ham it up, ham it down, depending on how they're doing.
I'm better with 2 to 5 people than I am. It's the production. It's the 10 on their side, 8 on our side, talk track, like literal dress rehearsals that just, and I'm actually more concerned about how I come across to my coworkers than I was about the client, which is why, like, if I'm in a room, like I do one-on-ones with clients a lot, and I intentionally do that because no one from my team is there. Like, I don't have to worry about what they think. Like, I can just be myself. And I just had this weird fear, and it was a Brain Labs thing. I'm like, they're so bright, they're so smart, and they're so like just on it. and the pace is faster. And I think I tried to be like them versus being myself. And someone we both worked with gave me great advice where he pulled me aside and he said, stop. Why are you trying to talk like a marketer? He's like, we have 250 of them. I'm not like that. You're not like that. Your superpower is client relationships and understanding what moves the needle. So just keep doing that. And that legitimately, I don't want to say like hyperbole to say it saved my career, but I leveled up from there on and just was more myself. And it kind of gave me the strength to do this because I was like, hey, how does this work? What's a W-2? How do I hire people? Right?
Well, first of all, I give you a ton of credit for starting this thing up. I remember you saying when you're like, oh, I might get something started. And then like a week later, you're like, I have 40 clients. I can't get enough people. I don't know how many clients you have, but it's been a
couple short of 40, but close.
A fun fast growth to watch from afar.
Thank you.
And also kind of glad it's not me.
There are days that I'm like, I texted a friend who wants to be on the podcast and we're talking about like, hey, let's catch up first. And I was like, it's just super busy. And I said, it's equal parts like, we're doing this. And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, we're doing this? Like, What are we doing? Like, yeah, I will say this, and I said this yesterday to Kayla. I will call bullshit on anyone who says founder's burden and it's hard to be a CEO. And oh my God, it's just soul crushing. It's so much work. Those are people who haven't worked fry side on line 2 at a Chi-Chi's Mexican restaurant on move-in weekend in a college town. That's hard.
I will hire anybody that has built their career in a restaurant. Anybody who wants to get out of there. One of my the best hires that we made, Matt, he lives kind of over there. Doesn't work for Tenuity anymore, but he was a 10, 15 year server, restaurant manager, whatever. And that guy could charm any client ever. He would just know how to talk to him, would know how to get them to open up, would know how to get the right questions. Hire servers. Love a ball of holy. Hire people who work for tips.
Sense of urgency, bias for action, EQ, awareness of their surroundings. They learn how to run food for other people and help them out. Mm-hmm. They learn how to pick up tables if someone else is in the weeds. They learn how to ask for someone to pick up a table if they're in the weeds. It's all about communication.
And they can learn how to fight through a tough situation, maybe a client that's being a little bit of a jerk, but they also know where to call the line and throw someone out of the restaurant.
Yep. It is, best. I mean, through and through, restaurant people. We had a great head of HR, Chris Martin, who now went back to restaurant side.
The Coldplay guy?
He is actually the guy who called out that couple. He's the president of a regional restaurant chain, and him and I caught up over drinks, and like him and I were like immediate fast friends because I came from restaurant into food service distribution sales into digital marketing, and he came in from restaurant straight into digital marketing. Mm-hmm. And we both had this immediate understanding of like what we needed in a great candidate for a role. It just makes it's you look for that person who's been in the weeds.
You know, I was a back of house guy for years and years and almost went to culinary school.
I mean, the worst thing they ever did to me, I was a front of the house guy and they were like, hey, you're going to manage the kitchen for the next 2 years. And I was like, oh, but I'll tell you what, once I learned how to run a kitchen, there's like this superpower of like anything can go wrong in here right now. Mm-hmm. And I can help. Mm-hmm. And when you achieve that at a restaurant and you know everything on the top of your head and you can help a bartender, you can help a server, you can help a busser, you can help a line cook, you can help a kitchen manager, you're like, nothing can break me. I always said there was that rare breed, and you very well may be this, like who's done operations, knows client success, who's also in platform, like the subject matter expertise to be able to turn the dial open and pull the water up over a client's head and parry their moves and talk shop with them at a tactical level, and also be able to talk about the business and run the business. I'm always envious of those people in our industry because you're the perfect weapon. Like you really can step in at any point and hold your own.
You know, it's funny. I appreciate the compliment. I never thought I was particularly good at execution. I was in the weeds for a lot of my career, but I got put into management pretty quick. Like my first job out of school, I sort of side-doored my way. So there was a development program at this place that I worked at called GSI, where a lot of my college peers were in the little rotational program. I snuck in the side door into a level above them. So they didn't really like that, A. But B, I was a manager. I was managing people in my first year of work. I always found that I was so much better at getting the best out of people and making people feel comfortable to be their best selves than I was at actually doing it myself.
Which is a superpower in our industry, because we talked about this before we were recording, about how this industry is rife with taking subject matter experts who are really good at a channel, turning them into people managers and not training them. Mm-hmm. And we're like, it's managing people. How hard can it be? And I do think that there is an underappreciation for client management, client relationships, and people management, because subject matter expertise is admittedly probably 60% of the job, or so you can get through 60, 70% knowing subject matter expertise. But when you've got a team of 10 all of a sudden and 4 angry clients, you're fucked. Like, it's harder for those people, like, oh shit, like I see deer in headlights. And that's where I'm like, give me that all day versus anything in platform.
Yeah, I mean the platform stuff, don't get me wrong, it's fun. I'm doing some of it now, which I haven't done in years. I would say it's like riding a bike if the bike changed shape and the wheels were square and the handlebars got moved to a different place, because what is Google now? But I like getting in there. To me, though, it was always, we talked about the difficulty of being a high growth senior individual contributor in an industry, that there's a ceiling for you. As much as you want to think there isn't, you will hit a spot where you can't grow anymore. But if you are a good communicator, if you are good at building a network, if you're good at expanding the network, in fact, like we talked at the beginning here, it was a shtick that I would always use in pitches and still do. But it's also true that when you hired me, you got the industry. You didn't hire me. You hired everybody at one time, because these people have all become my friends. And in my mind, the person who can do that in marketing or whatever, I mean, everyone to some degree, all agencies are organized by channel to some degree, which is stupid, but also smart. The people who are good at that are the ones who want to know everything that's happening outside of their job. And it's so hard to teach, especially in tough times now. Like, there's limited jobs out there. Companies are being squeezed. These people don't have enough time to look outside their own field. But the ones who are curious are the ones who wind up being the most.
Yeah. I mean, I see, I talked
Strong.
to a lot of people I've worked with, a lot of people I know who are looking for jobs. And there's a dangerous place to be when you were a subject matter expert and you moved up, but then you decided you didn't want to manage people and you didn't want to be a manager. You wanted to do like subject matter expertise, but you can't just do subject matter expertise and just Google anymore. You have to have you have to cast a wider net. And as I like to say, there still are those agencies out there. Ground, I think, is shrinking a bit underneath them, and there's fewer and fewer because so many are selling, and it becomes a really tough dynamic. And then the second thing I'll say is I have an amazing coach, shout out Rebecca Fleetwood Hessian, who, when I first started talking about doing this, said, go talk to people not related to Brain Labs, right? Like, start talking to people who you've known for years and just tell them what you're thinking about doing. And everyone I talked to predominantly was like, I think you should do it. How can I help? Or here's how I can help. And I went back to her and I said, why are these people helping? This is weird. Why are people nice? And she said, didn't say it this way. She's like, you idiot. You've been helping people, altruism, from a position of psychological and like professional safety. And people want to help you out. People want to have your back. And you're right. Like, part of what I didn't realize I'd have to lean on immediately is people I've worked with years ago who I've gone to and knocked on their door and said, can you help? Or do you know someone who can help? And they're like, I got you, fam. What do you need, man? And they're like immediately helpful with a pitch or a prospect or even jumping in on a client, because they're there for me and I appreciate them. They're fantastic. They're amazing people, but also, like, you're not hiring me or Mixtape, you're hiring the industry and the experience. And that's, I think, that sweet spot of like mid-market, smaller enterprise, and a team of people with experience, where we have like 150 years experience on this tiny, tiny team who have either seen it before or know someone who has. And so many times it's like, hey, I got a question and you're the only one who can answer this. And people just they just show up every time.
Well, there's a couple things in there. Number one, I found the same reciprocity, I think, is maybe the best word I can use. But
That's a good word. Many syllables.
I get the sense that you're very much a giver. I mean, you probably don't think of yourself that way. I never realized this about myself, but I'm a giver. And so when you actually ask for help, it's extremely flattering, the number of people who will drop everything to help you out. And that's a compliment to you for sure, when everyone, immediately offers to help you and you're like, why? And like, because you have been good to them forever.
Well, they know you're not, same with you. They know you're not using them, right? Like, you're not wearing them out, because I still, like, I won't go back to them. I'll be like, hey, like, I already asked you for help. Tell me no. And I say this all the time. Please tell me to fuck off and tell me no. It's perfectly fine. And people suck, but there's a lot of really great people. And I think we're both fortunate to have so many great people in our networks.
Well, and I think the second thing too, this actually doesn't directly go off what you just said, but The comfortability in having hard conversations or direct conversations. Like, I haven't fired too many people in my career, but I have fired people and they have said thank you before because it just wasn't a fit for either one, and they knew. We've broken up with clients and had clients break up with us that I'm still friends with, still in touch with, and would still hire and refer. It's just about transparency, and it's about not pulling the wool over someone's eyes versus like if you get an old friend who's like, "Hey Tom, how you doing? You having a good time? Oh, you look great. How's that eye? Amazing, super. Let me talk to you about my AI startup." Like, no. If you come in with like, "Hey man, it's been a while, like let's definitely catch up, but this is kind of purpose built, like you want to check out our product. By the way, do you want an optimizer demo?" But no, I mean,
just LinkedIn DM me. I'm sure I'll catch it. I have one last question for you. What is a belief you held earlier in your career about success or performance that today you think is bullshit or was bullshit?
that success is measured in size and growth. It's maybe not the best way to frame it, but number one, I thought you had to be promoted to win, which is the hardest thing to try and convince people who are early in their career. Not giving you this role because you're not ready for it, because you will fail at it. You don't need that to grow. You have growth to do in the same size pot before we repot you in a bigger place to spread out more. I think the other thing that I found, I mean, been a little bit of a theme here, that I'm a big network effect person. I love having a ton of people who know who I am. I love even more knowing about all of them. And that gets so hard as the network gets big, and so hard as your team gets big. I had a team of 120 odd people at Tenuity and went to SMX a couple of months ago. One of them who was on my team for 2 years, who was super, super strong, so people told me, and I promoted him a couple times. I had never met him. And it just worked out that way because he had a good support system, he had good managers, but I hated that. I hated that I knew nothing about him, and I hated that he was scared of me. And so that concept of rising, growing, getting more and more people under me and more clients. Maybe this is a sign of me growing and maybe a little bit of privilege here in the sense that I did have a lot of success in my career, but I would rather have a lot of a little. I would rather be really close to a couple things and a couple people and then have a tangential knowledge about these other folks. But to try and be close to every person and every client in my life when there's that many of them,
can't do it.
It's impossible.
You can't do it. And I had a team of about 110. So similar situation. It sucks because the people you don't get to know and you don't meet are the great ones. And I'm not saying anything about the people that you did get to meet or the people you do get to meet in that role, but so often they're people who you're trying to solve problems for. You're trying, like they just don't sync well with the team they're on, or or there's an issue with the client and it's not them, it's the issue. But you like dive in and help solve the problem, or you're trying to find them a spot where they can blossom. And the ones who come in who just have fortunate circumstances, or they just like from day one, they like run at it. They work there 2 years and you're like, I haven't talked to you. That's awesome. That should be awesome for you. You shouldn't be scared of me because that means like you're doing great work. And I always say, like the phone doesn't ring with great news when you're at that like level we were at. Like there's always like problems.
Literally the way I describe my job is I am picking who is mad at me today because I'm not going to be able to talk to everyone. And so I am choosing who to blow off.
It's tough. I'm doing the more and more of that where you're just like, hey, like I'm just going to have to get back to them early next week.
And I mean, it happens. People tend to understand, but it's not the best feeling, especially when you brand yourself as a relationship guy.
And when you care, I mean, because you're not just branding yourself, you actually are a relationship guy.
There's a degree of people pleaser in there for sure. And I mean, child of divorce, I want everyone to love me.
Stop stealing my lines. That's one of my favorites. I said, what can I say? I'm a Gen X child of divorce.
Yeah, I want everyone to love me, and like, but I won't get too close.
I have an utter respect for and abject fear of authority, or a total disrespect for and abject fear of authority.
Like, yes, and a subtle, like, you never all the way trust people. But one other thing that you said in your little conversation before that I didn't want to touch on, I really appreciate you shouting out your coach. I don't have one now. If you had asked me 10 years ago, like, oh, should I get a coach? I'd be like, what for? Are you just like you trying to become a better golfer? But when I got, which yes, I am, I would love a swing coach. It's hit a wall. But
we have a client in the space. I'll send you the link. They have lessons.
Go on. Besides that, I mean, when I was getting elevated at Tenuity, I was still a little bit of a spicy chalupa, and my boss Pat was like, "Look, like we're gonna give you this role. We're not gonna do everything you wanted, but yada yada yada. But you were going to meet with an exec coach." And of course, I stomped and whined a little bit. Probably the most impactful person on my life in those 2 years. Just having someone outside the field to call you on your bullshit, to guide you, to help you think your own thoughts. It took a little while for me to get there, but it was one of the greatest experiences that I had professionally. So shout out Mr. Adam Silberstein with a B, not a V, very confusing. But he was great, and it was something that was super, super important to me at a good time. And so I think if people are thinking about it,
Do it. I have a former coworker at Brain Labs who their development was transformative when they started. And so I met with this person. I was like, you are insanely amazing. Like, you're on such a run. And they were immediately like, I have a great coach I found who just helped clear the mechanism and help me understand how to move forward and how to be clear and intentional and not let it overwhelm me and focus on my locus of control and recognize my gifts. And it's like, it's coaches, they are business therapists.
I would always get called out aggressively whenever I was talking about something, and the story eventually led to Adam going, "Stop it. This is another thing where you think it's not fair, don't you?" And I'm like, "Shut up." He's like, "The world's not fair. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to protect against it? Because it's going to happen again." And that stopping me in my tracks, getting me to stop wallowing in self-pity and like, "Oh, this person was a jerk." Like, great. How are you going to fix it? Let's go fix it.
Yep. I was known as the office curmudgeon. My defense mechanism was the too cool for school thing. And I didn't participate in anything. And I work all the time. If I'm working, you're working, and I'm always working, you should always be working. And it was like a very old school mentality that had been baked into me through that outside sales career. And the second I realized like how to let that go and detach from that and be more vulnerable, everything just became more clear and got easier. And like, I will shout out Pat East and Hannapin. Like, it was the first company I ever worked for that was like, let's go get you a coach. And very much like a therapist, I've fired a lot of therapists. Very much like a therapist, I've fired a few coaches. Not fired, but I haven't renewed them because like, it's like, I just want something different.
Right.
And it just,
this has been amazing, but we're done.
Yeah. And then you find that person who just like, I mean, to this day, she sees a LinkedIn post and she's like, "Hey, you got a second? I have a question about that." And like, literally, I talked about how I was working more than I've ever worked in my life. And my wife was like, I joked that Amy was like, "And you're happier than you've ever been. It's annoying." And she texted me and said, "Do you have time to talk?" And I hopped on a call and she's like, "Hey, I'm worried about burnout." And it was like, had to talk her through it. Like, I'm not like, there's a bit of puffery because it's LinkedIn. Like, I'm okay. Also, but also you're like, geez, thank you. Like, just looking out for me.
It's funny though. I'm just going to keep this podcast going. We're never going to hang up. But the idea of burnout was very interesting to me because when Tenuity and I parted ways, I took basically a year and a half off. It was great for about 6 months. And then after that, it was kind of the opposite of burnout where I felt a little empty. It's like, I'm contributing nothing to society. I'm helping nobody aside from being on the board of my golf course and trying to fix the third green. The other side, I think, with that concept of grow, win, 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 is being in touch, I think, with what I actually wanted out of work and what I actually want out of life and what relationship I want them to have. I don't think I had that early in my career, and I don't think I would have had it without this little sabbatical. And now it's funny, I was talking to my sister because it's going to sound awful. I've worked all day today and I've worked hard and stuff has gone well.
Gold
and
star.
I feel more fulfilled than I have in a while.
I'm going to put that on the refrigerator. I'm proud of you. That's what we refer to that as a callback in the industry.
That's there you go.
I appreciate you. Thank you for taking time. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for talking about the lessons, the sabbatical, the horrible pitches. We've gone over time, as I often do, because my guests are amazing. So I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks, Aaron.
Neighborhood association.